Hello, everybody. Guess what? They didn't replace my Chromebook, and it's currently working right now. But if I find out that after I recorded this, it didn't record, I'm gonna be real mad. Okay? So anyway, I'm sorry for my absence. I don't really have any good excuse for this one, with the exception of the technology thing. I just decided, I've already tried to record like several videos, and they just didn't like me. And I was like, I don't care right now. I'm reading books. Bye. So, I apologize because I said I was going to be consistent and whatever, and I wasn't. So, whatever. You forgive me. So here's another not boring. Here's another like cookie cutter video of me talking about what I read in January. I'm sorry. But the next video will not be that. One of the next videos is going to be, so we have, upcoming videos, just FYI. 2023 reading plans. 2023 booktube/bookstagram plans. Also, maybe another Beauty the Beast recommendation video. Also, maybe another Excuse Me While I Rant video. And then I've got some other stuff. So anyway. How's it going? I read 28 books. 28 books in January, guys. Don't ask me how. I don't know. Yeah, I think I went into like a fugue state and just like didn't grade anything, didn't watch any TV, didn't clean my house, which you would be able to see if I turn this camera around. But I just read a lot. And had a great time. And I'm going to tell you about the great times that I had. I think what I'm going to do, though, just kind of FYI, is there's a series of books that I'm in like the middle of reading. And I think I'm going to do sort of a more in-depth video where I talk about the experience of reading those books, because I think I will just talk forever, and we got other stuff to do, you know? So, let's chat. Okay, I think the last book, you know what I should have done? I should have checked what the last one I talked about was. Like, a responsible human. Hold on. Okay. I started recording again, and then I was like, wait, let me double check one more time. So the last book that I talked about was Just a Matter of Time, and I'm not gonna lie, I just watched the last like 5 minutes of my last video, because does anyone ever do that? So total offshoot random story here. As one of my former professors would say, bird walk. So, I started making videos during COVID for my students. And that was a little awkward, but like, I got better at it. And then I also teach part-time online. So I make like minimum probably 4 videos a week, for them. And I've been doing it for 5 semesters. So I like talk to myself all the time. And then sometimes I have to watch my videos back to make like basically little questionnaires. Like, what did I talk about? Like comprehension stuff, because they're all online courses. So when I started BookTube, like I knew I was going to be pretty comfortable with the camera in front of me. But sometimes I'll be literally like going through and editing my videos, and then I realize that I've been watching myself for like 30 minutes for like no good reason. If that is a weird self-conceited thing, maybe it is, I don't know. But I have been doing that. So I don't know what's wrong with me. One time I started watching a video of mine that was about the Silk and Steel series by Ariana Nash. And I was like grading myself. I was like, Megan, the camera quality is like not great, and it's super fun. It was the earlier video, like one of my earlier ones. I was like, the camera quality isn't great, like it's kind of fuzzy, like the lighting isn't very good. But I was like listening to myself, and I was like, girl, you were saying some profound things here about this series. Like in the video, I like apologize for like not doing a good job summarizing it, and I'm like, oh, that's good. And then I was like, you gotta Megan, you gotta stop being weird. Just a little bit. Like, keep being weird, but like, don't be as weird. Anyway, okay. So, let's chat, shall we? So, the very first book I think I finished after I updated you guys mid-month is this book called Boyfriend Goals by Riley Hart. Hold on, let me decide. Beep-a-doop. I don't know if you can tell, but I feel super strange today, and my outfit doesn't match, and I think I need to stop wearing this sweater, but I don't care. Anyway, also, I'm also used to my new hair. Just thought I'd tell you that. Okay, so first book I read this month, the second half of the month, is Boyfriend Goals by Riley Hart. The cover is crap. I'm sorry. This cover, what, why? There are so many books, and like my friend Jen, love her dearly, recommends these books to me, and I'm like, they sound so good. And then I look at the cover and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, listen, I like dudes as much as the next girl, except if you're, like bi or, pan or demi or, a lesbian or whatever. But I like dudes. They're attractive. I don't need to see you half naked on a cover every day of my life. Gosh, leave some mystery in the world. I'm kidding. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to try to go quickly on these books because I don't want to talk for an hour. I know. I don't want to talk for an hour. So I really like this book. So it was recommended to me by my friend Jen, who fell into the gay pit, after I did. Much later after I did. And then she like kept going, and I like took breaks for other things, and she was like reading this and that. Anyway, this woman has read a bazillion series and just recommends the ones that she thinks I'm gonna like the most, because she knows that like I wouldn't say I'm a series gal necessarily. So anyway, Boyfriend Goals. It's super cute. It's about this guy named Milo. Milo is like 26, something like that. And it's on the autism spectrum. I did read somewhere that people weren't super impressed by the representation. And though I don't think it's like Helen Wang, like levels of representation in terms of like autism spectrum disorder, I think it's done fairly well. And I think some people really don't like labels. Like, he calls himself neurodivergent at one point. His mom talks about autism at one point. I wasn't bothered by it. I thought it was good. But, if you've read it and you have other thoughts, they're valid too. But Milo is 26 years old. He works with his mother. He does is he accounting? I think he does like accounting or something. He doesn't particularly like it, but he's good at it. He's like decent with people, but he's very honest. And he finds out that he inherited this bookstore and building in this like small town in some city, like in Massachusetts or Maine or somewhere where there's seafood, and from his grandmother that he didn't know that he had. And it's his mother's biological mother. Again, did not know she existed. So anyway, he decides to go there, and he's like, I feel like I should go and maybe try to find what works for me. And there's this guy named, what's his name? Gideon. They're both so cute. Milo is like so good. So Gideon is a tattoo artist. He is from this island. I can't remember what the island's called anymore. And they're both, I think, yeah, they're both gay. Sorry. I've read so much since, sorry, I'm going to move around a lot in this video. My undiagnosed ADHD, as I tell my children, is like kicking in. But anyway, he moved away and then came back. Hasn't really had a ton of luck with dating necessarily, long-term relationships. And he's not sure if Milo's going to like kick him out or, whatever, because he rents the store next to the bookstore, and the whole building was owned by Milo's grandmother. And anyway, it's this really cute story. There's not a lot of angst. It's like, you kind of wish there was more angst, because, when I say that, it's one of those, like, how it's going to end, but it's just really sweet spending time with the characters. And the characters don't necessarily develop a ton, but it's like them getting to know each other. And Milo moves in with Gideon and stays in the guest bedroom of the apartment that Milo owns, that Gideon rents. And so they live together, and then they start sort of like, Milo's like, could you like teach me things about, stuff? Because I'm 26 and I'm a virgin and I'm not like super great with people sometimes. But I thought the representation was actually pretty good. I've talked about this before in some other videos. But I feel like as an educator, which isn't a huge part of this channel, obviously, and I'm sorry, this thing is bugging me. Like, why can't you see that I'm wearing this cute polka dot dress when it doesn't want to, I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, as an educator, you see all different kinds of students and different kinds of people. And not that you don't in real life either, but I think we think more critically about those things. And I've definitely had kids like Milo. So I didn't mind. I thought it was good. But that's just me. So anyway, but it's cute because like Milo has these weird little quirks. And like he hates wearing pants inside. When he's at home, he wants to be at home. He wants to be at peace in his house. And it's so cute. It's so cute. Milo's adorable. And Gideon is just like so taken with him. And like this honesty and this like willingness to try new things. And it's just very sweet. I really liked it. I definitely recommend it. I had never read any Riley Hart before. It is marginally attached to a series, but it is standalone. Like, it's not in the series. They just mention a university that is another one of her series. So anyway, I liked it a lot. Okay, did I not tell you about this book? Wow, I'm a slacker. I feel like I should have told you about it, but no, I finished it after I finished the mid-month wrap-up. So I listened to this book called When Harry Met Harry on Audible. I was listening, her name is Sydney Smith. I kept butchering it in the last video. She wrote Bridesmaids, and it was like this pretty short audiobook, kind of novella length. I really loved it. It was really sweet. And so I decided to listen to all the books that she had on Audible, and I listened to When Harry Met Harry. And I really like it. It's based on like When Harry Met Sally. I'm not a huge fan of that. But I think it worked, and it is sort of the right person, wrong time thing. We'd been friends for a long time, but we, wanted to make the friend thing work. And I can't explain why sometimes that works for me and sometimes it doesn't. Like, I can't explain why I was totally fine with the friends to lovers thing in When Harry Met Harry. I don't know why I'm pointing to my phone. When Harry Met Harry, and people meet on vacation, I hated it. And I think it depends on how aware the characters are of their own feelings, how aware they are of the other person's feelings, how much they talk about it together or not talk about it at all. Because it was painfully obvious in People Meet on Vacation in a way that it wasn't painfully obvious in this. And I was fine with it. I don't know. I think that's a double standard, but that's what it is. Anyway, it's about these two guys. They meet on a plane on the way from Singapore to LA, San Francisco, something like that. And they're going to California. And Henry, his real name's Henry, and he goes by Harry. But in the book, most people call him Henry. And then there's Harrison, who also goes by Harry. But again, in the book, he's most often called Harrison because it's Harrison and Henry essentially. But they both, like, nicknames are like Harry and Harry. So Harrison is going back to pursue acting. He's graduated college, and his, I think a grandmother died and left him some money, and he decides that he's going to go travel the world. And then Henry, his father does real estate and stuff, business kind of things in Singapore, and he is going to LA to try to find some opportunities for himself there. and they meet on a plane, have this run-in. It's hilarious. They like each other, like they're both attracted to each other, but they both annoy each other, and they don't meet each other again for 5 years. And then when they do, they become actual, like, really good friends. But then the longer they're friends, the more Harrison realizes that he has feelings for him. And Henry isn't as aware. But when he does become aware, he tries to cut Harrison off. And I think the twist at the end maybe was resolved a bit too quickly, but I liked it a lot. I thought it was cute. So I would definitely recommend, of the 3 that I read by Sydney Smith, I'd recommend Bridesmaids, 100%, loved it. And then I'd recommend When Harry Met Harry, sorry. The next one that I'll talk about, I did like a lot, but it's not my favorite. So I read that guy. Then I read Sleep Was Over You, also by Sydney Smith. This is kind of Sleepless in Seattle vibes. I liked it. The problem is Sleepless in Seattle works for the time period that it came out in, right? It doesn't work as well today. And this book really tries to get it to work, but it doesn't have the same magic. And it has a lot of kind of annoying near misses. It's about, what are their names? Matt and his dog. No idea. He has this dog that's famous on Instagram, and he's been sort of managing his dog's career for like 6 years. But what he really wants to do is write. And then you have Hugo, whose daughter goes on a talk show, like radio talk podcast, and talks about her parents' love story, her dad's, and how they met. And one of her fathers died from cancer a few years before. And she wants her other father, Hugo, to be happy again. And so it's kind of, that Sleepless in Seattle vibe. Matt weirdly connects to it. He can't explain why. He doesn't even listen to that podcast. His sister hasn't listened to it. But they have these near misses that felt kind of annoying and unrealistic, perhaps. And I don't know. It didn't have as much magic as I wanted it to have. Okay. Are you ready? Then I read this book called Beautiful Distraction, which I may make a rant video about because it frustrated me so much. So we have this girl named Mallory. And okay, let me just say this real quick. I'll probably discuss this in the rant video too if I make it. Just like full disclosure, I realize that there are people who might read this book. Whoa. I don't know where that came from. Welcome back. Okay. So I had to have some water because apparently I talked for too long. Isn't that funny? I know. Okay. So I read this book, Beautiful Distraction. And here's the problem with, okay, this sounds terrible. Here's the problem with representation, okay? Whether it's like gender, sexuality, why am I holding this trash still? Neurodivergence, race, religion, whatever. It's gonna work for some people and it's not gonna work for others, right? And it's very subjective how we approach those things, how like our own experiences color how we view things, right? And so I'm going to rant about this book, not as much here as I might in that video if I do make it, that may very well represent how someone else feels. It doesn't represent how I feel, though, and it pissed me off as a result because it was just whiny. It was whiny, and it pissed me off. So I just want you to understand where I'm coming from with this. So I read this book by Lydia Michaels. It was recommended to me on Goodreads. Not Goodreads. On oh my gosh, booktube several months ago, and I was just kind of in a reading mood. I was like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's just go. And I already had it on my Kindle, and I picked it up, and I knew pretty early on that it was going to be one of those books where I just complained, like the whole book. And, well, she complained the whole book, and I complained the whole book. And I just started collecting things I didn't like about it. Like, that was me. The whole book, I was just like, ooh, don't like that. Ooh, don't like that. And it just kept happening. And I felt bad about it, but I was like, it just pissed me off. So this book is about Mallory. She relocates from Philadelphia to go to like a small town because she's going to like do a new her. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to be like a new person. And because her doctor says she's morbidly obese. Okay. I think I have an idea what that looks like. And I don't think that this is Mallory, but whatever. So she goes and she accidentally meets this guy named Finn. It's like in this whole series that I don't plan on reading now at all. They're all standalone, but they're all about siblings from the same family. And so there's Finn, and Finn is a logger. He's like this beautiful, buff, bearded. Does he have a beard? I don't know. Like Irish logger dude who wears flannel. It's hot, you know? And so they meet, and of course, she accidentally runs into him while she's like running on a trail because, like, you know, she's trying not to be morbidly obese. And, anyway, they fall in love. But there's, like, so many other things. He's got this terrible ex-girlfriend who, at the beginning of the book, is not, I'm going to fix this while I'm talking, is not actually an ex-girlfriend. Okay, she's, like, a current girlfriend. So he moves on fast. But you know what? They've been together for 10 years. There was no spark there. Literally, they're talking, and he's like, yeah, like, whatever. We've broken up and got back together several times, but, like, I don't know. I'll probably marry her. And Mallory's like, excuse me? What? Like, you don't seem very passionate about it. And he's like, whatever. And you're like, okay, this is inspiring stuff here, you know? No, it's not. So anyway, this whole book, you know, Mallory is basically, like, trying to get in shape. And Finn's trying to tell her she's beautiful. And she's like, nope, I'm not beautiful. I'm fat. And he's like, I don't think you're fat either, but whatever. And we wouldn't have a story if Finn left, although he should have. Because she annoyed the ever-loving shit out of me. Because constantly was like, I'm fat. I'm fat. And I was like, you know what? No one's ever gonna love you if you don't love yourself, bitch. Like, get over it. This man's trying to tell you you're beautiful and that you're worth spending time with, which honestly, I'm sorry, this woman had no personality. It really frustrated me. But, yeah, I hated it. And at the end, sorry, spoiler, she's like, oops, guess what? Also, I know we just, like, sort of broke up because I accidentally saw you kissing your ex, and I should have believed you when you said it was, like, her fault. Because, like, this ex is evil, but I just thought it was you, and I left, and I went home for Thanksgiving alone, and then I, you know, told my parents that you were real, and they were like, we didn't expect you to come home with anyone anyway, and also, I'm pregnant. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I'm not going to read any more of the books. Lydia Michaels, you lost me, bitch. Sorry. I'm done. So anyway, I'll do a whole probably rant video about this because, like, literally, and again, this may be other people's experiences, right? But this girl's like, I've never felt comfortable in my body. I've always felt, like, self-conscious and also, like, I'm morbidly obese, my doctor says. And then she says that she was 190 pounds. And my first thought was, like, what are you, like, a dwarf? How does that work out? Anyway, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I gave it 2 stars. Okay. Then I listened to Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match, and I really had a great time. So Sally Thorne, of course, wrote my fave, The Hating Game, like Josh and Lucy, the real MVPs. I had a friend who just read it recently, and she was like, I don't know, the last couple hours kind of annoyed me, and I was like, Well, the last couple hours have cemented themselves into my soul, but anyway. Um, but Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match is also by Sally Thorne. She has two other like contemporary romances, I think, that she wrote after the Hating Game, and then she has this one. And this one I wasn't sure what to make of it. I knew I saw it in the stores, and it's obviously like a play on Frankenstein, right? And I think that's interesting. But I wasn't sure how this story was going to play it. I wasn't sure, like, if it was going to be more of a fantasy sci-fi thing, or if it was going to be more like historical romance and to sort of use that as a way to get started. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to play it. And the first, like, 80% of the book, I think it worked well. I think it worked well. It sort of lost at the last, like, 20%. It wasn't sure what kind of book it wanted to be, and it felt a little too easy, a little too typical romantic ending without a lot of explanation. And I liked the mystery of the first 80%. It's about this woman named Angelica Frankenstein. She's the younger sister of Victor Frankenstein, the inventor and the a scientist, and they're going to bring these two men back to life because Victor wants to sort of like poo in the face of his sort of arch nemesis, and that's why the men are made up of different parts, because his nemesis brought a man back just like not having been tampered with, and Victor wants to prove that he's better. And so he, of course, makes the sort of quintessential creature, very like tapestry, different pieces, huge, like hulking sort of monster, even though he's not, right? Okay. And then Angelica makes someone who could potentially be a future husband for her. And she's, brought men back before and it didn't work out. And she's 24. She's a spinster, guys. Oh, God, she's gonna die alone. Sorry. Anyway. So, I mean, I understand that historically speaking that was true. But I am 31. Like, let it up, okay? It's okay. But anyway. So, it's sweet, though, because they bring back so Will and then Adam. So, Adam's like the sort of hulking, sort of typical creature monster. And he runs away. Victor doesn't chase him away. Victor doesn't give up on him. So it was nice because it was sort of redemption for that character. But you can kind of see the connections. And so he spends most of the book trying to find him and bring him home. But you also have like this beautiful relationship with him and Lizzie, who's the woman that he eventually marries. And then you've got Angelica, who has this really deep connection with Will, who is the man that she helped create. But Will doesn't feel like he can move on in this new life until he knows what happened in his old one and why, if there are people that are still going to be relying on him. And I thought that there was some really good foreshadowing in this book. I felt like it was subtle, but my brain was working the whole time on this mystery. Like, where did he come from? Who is he really? What does this hint mean? And that's why I say the last 20% was disappointing also, because that sort of all falls to the wayside. And I felt like I spent all this time analyzing things for then it not to matter as much. But I did like it quite a bit. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was sweet. Will's adorable. He is no Josh Templeman, I think is that Josh's name in the Hating Game. But he's still a sweetheart. And I wish it hadn't been as insta-lovey, because they're in love with each other from like almost the beginning, but it's whether or not they can actually be together. And it was just a little bit too insta-lovey, but like I can forgive it. Okay, then I read Mr. Romance by Louisa Masters. This cover is terrible. I realize this. It's also in this series called Franklin University. It's called Franklin U, so it's FU. And my friend Jen recommended it. They're also standalone books, but she said that this character, Charlie, reminded her of me, and I thought that was interesting, so I decided to give it a shot. But she's basically recommending to me, like, books that she knows stand alone that I would enjoy, so I don't have to get involved in series, which is good because she is like so involved in series. So this book is sweet. It wasn't nearly as good as Boyfriend Goals, which is sort of like adjacent to this universe, I guess, the sort of FU universe. But it's about this guy named Charlie, and Charlie finds out at the beginning of the book, and also they're college students. So I'm really struggling at this stage of my life to read YA often, and now I'm getting to the point where I struggle even sometimes to read college stuff because that's not where I am. Like, I'm not there, you know? It's not always the case, but I think that's why I have been kind of edging more towards like fantasy recently, or I say that most of these are realistic fiction, but I've just been so reminded recently of all these. I just don't relate as much to these characters anymore, and it's kind of frustrating. I'm trying to work it out though. So anyway, Charlie finds out at the beginning of the book that he's accidentally dating 3 people because he's at like brunch with one of them, and then another one shows up and another one shows up, and he realizes that these people who he thought were his friends all thought they were dating, and like they were like, you know, newer friends, so it wasn't like his like best friend of 5 years or anything, right? And so he enlists the help with so he has a friend named Ian has a friend Matt, and they're like, I guess, from a different series. I don't know, I'm not gonna read them. So, but they both have a friend who does gymnastics stuff with them, not on the team or anything, but just like for fun, named Liam. And Liam is Mr. Romance. And they're all college students, and he is like a physics major, and he does something else, I can't remember. And he is like a pure romantic, he loves romantic stuff, and anyway, he like plans dates for people and things like that. And so Ian, one of their mutual friends, recommends that Charlie, who has a bunch of money, trust fund baby, great guy though, he gets some help from Liam to hopefully figure out why all these people thought they were dating. And it's really sweet. And my computer's gonna die, so let's plug her in, shall we? Anyway, it's super sweet. But what I thought was funny about this as my friend was like, Megan, you have to read this because like, it's funny. Charlie is so sweet and charismatic and interesting and genuinely wants to help people and will pay for people's food. And, you know, he finds out at one point that like, there's several people who thought they were dating or had potential for dating, and not just the 3. And so like Liam helps him with that. And then he and Liam sort of get involved for sort of a, you know, sort of mutually beneficial friendship. And then it kind of goes from there. But it was funny because she's like, my friend Jen was like, Megan, this guy reminds me of you. I have never found out that I was dating 3 people at the same time on accident. But like people just assume because he's a nice guy and because he talks to them, you know, and like values their friendship, that like they're dating. And I thought it was interesting. It made me do like some real introspection. Like, have people thought that I was interested in them before when I wasn't, but I was just being like fun and talkative and wanting to spend time with them? And then like I like accidentally ghosted them when I didn't know it. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, it would explain a lot if that's the truth though. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. It's sweet. Don't judge the book by its cover. It's not as good as Boyfriend Goals at all, but I did really like it. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Okay, so then I read Walk on Water. This is a webtoon. It's in 2 volumes on Goodreads, so I counted it as 2 volumes. You know how I roll. And I didn't dislike this. I read it because I've wanted to read it for a while, and it's finally over, and they had this like deal on the website where I read a lot of these. So I decided to buy it and read it. And it's about this guy, Ed, who decides to, I guess, enter the adult film industry. There we go. because he needs the money to pay off debts. I think that's why he's doing it. The plot is flimsy, okay? And he ends up meeting this guy named, what's his face? This is annoying because I don't remember what their names are. Ed and... Okay, these people didn't actually include their names. Oh well. Glenn. There it is. Glenn McQueen. So anyway, he starts working for this guy named Glenn McQueen who like produces these adult films and has his own production studio and stuff, and has in the past starred in them, although not as much anymore. And they sort of connect on set and have this romance, and it's not easy necessarily. They have, you have conflicts like, what are the conflicts actually? I don't remember. I gave it 3 stars, so it wasn't as good as listen, there were scenes that were interesting. Okay. There were also scenes that were like, no, this is boring. But, you have this whole, like, can we be together while still doing this? What's more important to me? Like, being in this industry, like, trying to make a statement about, like, the value of the industry, or should I move on and do something else? I'm not really doing it justice, but I thought it was interesting. The plot was definitely weak. But I had seen it around, I had seen it around on social media, and I knew I wanted to check it out, and I liked it well enough, I suppose. Okay, then I read like 4 books in one day. I was vibing. So I think I want to have a whole video about this because I don't want to talk forever about this. So I ended up reading how many books? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 books. 9? No, I read 8 in January. In this kind of connected universe by this author named SKYE Warren, who I guess writes like dark romance and mafia shit. And I complain all the time about booktubers talking about this and how I don't really care. And then my friend was like, Megan, it's like has these Beauty and the Beast vibes to it, and I think you would like it. And so I said to myself, okay, I will attempt it eventually. And then I did, like 6 months or something after she told me about them. And I was obsessed. And I'm not done yet. In the middle of me, sharing with you, I'm on like I finished the ninth book, and I've got like 4 or 5 more that are in like this interconnected. So they're in these, this is what I hate. They're like in these individual series, but then the series are in like this universe, like this sort of web. And there's no visual online for that. I hate that. If you're going to do that as an author, just FYI, put a visual online so people can see it. It just ticks me off. So anyway, I started reading this series, and I'll kind of keep this, I'll just tell you the ones I read quickly, okay? Because I think I'm going to do a whole video about my fall from grace, or I don't know. Okay, so the first book is called The Pawn, and it's by SKYE Warren, and it is about, it's ridiculous, okay? So it does have Beauty and the Beast vibes, though, which I appreciated. It was like a modern day Beauty and the Beast. So it's about this girl named Avery, and Avery had like Gossip Girl vibes for sure. She, her family was rich. Her father sort of fell from grace, fraud and different things like that. He went to court, lost a lot of money. Business partners turned on him, and then he was eventually like beaten in the street and like has lost his health. He hasn't been the best of health. So she's home from her private, all girls school, university. She's 18. I think she's 18. And she doesn't have any more money. She's used her college fund. She doesn't know what to do. And so she knows there's a criminal kind of underbelly to the city. It had sort of Gotham vibes, not gonna lie. But it's called Tanglewood. And so she goes to the Den, which is like kind of like the capital of sort of this criminal like underbelly of the city. And it's owned and operated by this guy named Damon Scott. And so she's going to go to him and ask for a loan because she knows that he does that. But she doesn't have any sort of collateral. She doesn't have anything to provide. And there's this other guy named Gabriel Miller, who we know when we meet him that he's someone that we've met before. Or at least I figured it out, so I don't know. But he sort of offhandedly suggests that they should do like this auction for her. Yeah, definitely illegal. For her virginity. Okay. Crazy. She's 18 and she's beautiful. Anyway, so they decide to go through with it, and it's going to be for like 30 days. She'll go to the highest bidder. They do have a process, like who can, bid or whatever. So she's not going to be like brutalized or anything. That's the goal, is like Damon wants to protect her. Because of course all these guys have like hearts of gold. I mean, Gabriel sometimes is iffy, but so the first 3 books in the series are about Avery and Gabriel. So the Pawn is about like the initial auction, him winning it. So he suggests it, but then he wins it, and he pays a ton of money, like $1 million. When like the highest bid before him was like 200 grand or something, which is still a lot of money, right? And I know it sounds ridiculous that you're auctioning off someone's virginity, but whatever. And so she goes to go live with him for a month. And, things eventually happen. It's sweet. He has a library. She loves books, of course, right? So that's the Pawn. And then the Knight is, I think, still within the 30 days. But what happens during the night, actually? I think like this is where like they solidify more of their relationship. But then you also have like more things coming up in the background that are like that they have to fight against. Like Damon Scott has this father who used to be like kind of like the kingpin of this like criminal like underbelly of the city. I keep saying criminal underbelly like that is something specific, but I can't think of any other words. And so Damon sort of took over from him so he could like, do a better job and like not hurt as many people as his father, because his father's like criminally insane. Like legitimately like mental institution, like diagnosably crazy. And so this book, you have more uncovered about Avery's father and her mother. Her mother died when she was younger. You have more about like people who might be coming for her. It's ridiculous, okay? And then in the 3rd book, The Castle, you've got what do you have? It is kind of a lead-in to the next series. And so you meet this girl named Penny, who is someone that Damon brings in and saves. And you don't know what their connection is, but you know that that they have one. And Penny stays with Gabriel and Avery. The 30 days have passed for Avery, but she knows she's staying with him because she wants to, not because she has to. But she's even more at risk now because this guy who they've now found out more, about her mother's death and more about her father and more about who's after her. So now, like, they are very, and there's a price on her head. So she is, like, as safe as possible in his, like, sort of modern day, like, mansion, chateau sort of, thing. There's a ton of security. And Penny comes to stay with her to recover from this horrible thing that happened to her that we do find out more about in the next book. And then Gabriel Miller, who is like the business partner of Damon Scott, they're both sort of these like dark past, maybe killed people, Well, not really. Like, they're not, like, that bad. Although Damon hasn't killed anyone. And Gabriel killed his own father, so, you know. So you have, like, this is, like, the ending of that, where, not the ending, but you find out, like, the answers to all these questions. And also, like, more about Avery's past, because she starts having, like, she has, like, repressed memories and stuff from when she was a kid. So it's pretty freaky. Then I read The Prince, the King, and the Queen. So the Prince is, like, technically the first part of the King, but it's also listed individually as its own book, and I read it as its own book, and I'm going to count it as its own book. So The Prince is an introduction to Damon and Penny, and their story is, like, the real MVP. I really enjoyed it. They meet when they are both kids. He's a teenager, she is a child. Nothing happens between them then. It's more of, like, a sibling sort of relationship. They only know each other for a couple weeks, probably. And then Damon ends up sacrificing himself to save her from this, like, dark entity in both of their lives. And they meet again when she's 15. That's when she's introduced in the third book, when she's saved by him after really horrible events regarding his father and her. And Damon feels a lot of regret that he let that happen, even though it's not his fault at all. And so, anyway, so it's a much more slow burn because she has to age up first, which I don't appreciate how young these people are, but whatever, it's fine. So she gets to be, like, she turns 16, they kiss. He knows nothing's going to happen between them until she's older, and also he doesn't really think that he deserves her. We don't really get his perspective very much, but you can figure it out. And she's not quite sure what they are. She knows there's something to each other, but it's something, like, indefinable. It just defies logic and explanation, this connection that they have. And so she eventually is, like, 19, and she goes to find him again because Avery, the girl from the first 3 books, they both go to the same university, and Avery has gone missing. And so she needs his help. And so they go to solve that mystery. And of course, you have other things going on there too. Her father is a gambler and an addict, and has been tied up with, Damon for a long time. Excuse me. And other, like, irresponsible parties. And so Damon has always wanted to protect her, but he knows he failed once, even though it wasn't his fault, and he's like never gonna forgive himself for what happened. And you also have, like, the same sort of evil character from the first 3 books who plays a huge part in Avery's story. That's Damon's father, Jonathan. And so Damon feels like he has to be the one to end it and to fix it. And so the first book is more when they're younger. The Prince is sort of the prequel when you meet them when they're younger, when she's 7 and he's, like, 16. Then the King is sort of their connection when she's 15. The events that lead to her sort of brutalization by his father, which is really disgusting and terrible. Their, like, later separation, she goes to university, he continues doing whatever the heck he's doing because he's, like, a full-ass, like, adult human. And then the Queen is when she, like, really, like, asserts herself back into his life for multiple reasons. 1, she wants his help, and 2, she's like, you're not gonna keep pushing me away when I want to be here. Like, we have to figure out what this thing between us is. And it was like, I was rooting for Damon and Penny, like, 100%. I was into it. It was so good. So then, after that, I read The Bishop, which is a novella. It's about this guy named Anders, who is, this is a whole web, right? We need, like, a map. So Anders is, like, sort of the go-to on-call doctor for like all the sort of mob. They don't say the words mob or mafia or gangsters, but like that's what they are basically. I've never thought I'd read any of this stuff, so okay. So anyway, he is kind of the on-call doctor. He says he lost his license, but they don't talk about how or why. I think it's because I think he broke the law to save someone's life. And so now he practices, but like not in a hospital. And he cares a lot about people. And this story is about like him trying to get justice for his mother, who was like also like horribly brutalized and beaten when he was a child, and then eventually she died. And so he wants to get revenge on the person who did that, but he doesn't know who that is. So he's trying to figure that out by selling off this like antique item that he thinks they'd be interested in, that is like a family heirloom. And he ends up meeting this woman who tries to steal it, but she's stealing it like not because she wants to, but because like what's happening here? But because like her stepfather is making her, and she's an artist, and anyway, she's been like stealing things for him since she was a kid, and so like she is beaten because she refuses to give this thing that she stole to her stepfather, and she's saved by Anders, and then they have this like really sweet romance. It's very short, and I thought believable, honestly. And then you get some resolution. Yeah. And then I think the last book I finished was Trust Fund. And so this is sort of a prologue to the next part of the series. I think I'm reading them in order, but I might not be. I'm trying. So this is about Harper and Harper's like former like stepbrother. They were only related for a very, very short amount of time. They only knew each other in person for like a week, and then they like corresponded as like friends. But their parents were married for a very short amount of time, like probably like a couple months, maybe a year, and they only met in person one time before their parents divorced. So like they're technically step siblings at one point, but they're not anymore. So I'm not weirded out by it. But it's about Harper and Christopher, who we meet in Avery's books, Avery and Gabriel's books. Oh wow, I'm so sorry. And anyway, Avery talks about how there's definitely something going on between Harper and Christopher, and she's kind of waiting for them to figure it out, especially Harper. And so this is how they met when they were teenagers, and like what leads up to their falling out, because they would like correspond via letters and stuff and talk, and then her father dies when she is, how old is she? 18. Yeah. And he puts Christopher in charge of her trust fund as like the executor of it, because even though he was only his stepson for a short time, like they became very connected. He was the son he never had. And Christopher is very much bound by duty, and so he is going to do what he thinks Harper's father would have wanted. Except Harper's father might have been a little demented. So, I don't know if he was thinking clearly, necessarily. So that's like the introduction to the rest of the books. And so I'm currently reading the first book, which is about Christopher and Harper, but there's like this love triangle with this guy named Sutton, who is Christopher's business partner. And then in the next book, will resolve who she's going to pick, which we know who she's going to pick, because I've known ever since Avery said she realized that there was a connection between them, even though like nothing had ever happened between them. And then the next book is called Mating Theory, and that is about Sutton's own sort of love story. And then after that, you have all these other books. So there's a book about Ivan and Candy. Ivan and Candy are characters that you meet in the first 3 books, and Candy helps Avery get ready for her virgin auction, and it's really sweet actually. And so they have their own book in another series, but it's again the same universe. So I'll probably have several more books to read. I don't know if I'm not taking a break, but like I was so into it for like days during this. We're on like, at the time of me recording this, I have now had 4 snow days in a row, basically. And then I had like a long weekend because I took a Friday off. And so it's just been kind of crazy. But yeah, I started reading strangely dark romance. I don't know. I don't know how long this video is going to be either, but that's it. I read 28 books. 28 books in January. And granted, a few of them are like mangas, webtoons. Some were novellas, though I didn't count them if they were less than 50 pages. Most of them were around 100 or 150. And like I told you, I'll let myself count those because there are books that I will read that I can't count. They're not going to be on Goodreads. So, yeah, I read a lot of contemporary romances. Like I would consider dark romance to be contemporary. I'm not a dark romance fan by any means, and I'm going to kind of break that down in another video. But I think it's interesting, at least, that the element of the Beauty and the Beast thing definitely kind of pulled me in. But, yeah, that's it. I'm currently listening to Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I'm liking it, but it's not as like high energy, as fast paced as I thought it was going to be. I'll talk about that in my February mid-month wrap up. I've also put on hold You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, which my friend Katrina recommended. So I've got that. And then, of course, I'm going to be reading all these SKYE Warren books, whatever. And we'll go from there. I still have not read Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. I still haven't read Shipwreck by Olivia Dade. Those are on my list soon, too. But I felt very mood ready recently. And I had to get into it. So, anyway, thanks for joining me, everybody. Sorry I talked for so long, but you knew it when you started, okay?